Alright, welcome everybody. Hopefully it looks like my microphone is working this time. And we got some background tunes on. Thanks very much everybody for joining me. This is CanHammer TV on April 4th, 2023. Shout out to everybody out there. We are just here chilling out, recovering from CanHammer team tournament this past weekend on my birthday weekend, and it was quite the event as usual. So we'll be talking a bit about that tonight. Thank you for watching and following and subscribing. Thank you everybody for joining. If you want to join the CanHammer channel, you can click the link below, like and subscribe. Shout out to my brother who provides this background music for us and the starting soon music. He's just started a Spotify and he's always been into like house music and EDM, whatever that stands for. And so that's what you're hearing in the background, is some of his new music. David sent us welcome from Oh Wow, our wives are weary of Warhammer. Thank you for coming this weekend. It was great to see everybody. CanHammer Team Tournament 2023 is over, and it was a big event, our biggest so far. 160 players, 32 teams. We had 9 teams on the wait list, and we sold out in 20 seconds, which it never ceases to amaze me every year how much amazing interest we have for this event. So thank you very much, everybody. Without the players, there's no event. So thanks very much. We held it this weekend, and it was a great event. Everybody was there. Everybody had their jerseys on. The atmosphere was amazing. Me and Jeremy had almost nothing to do all weekend. There was no misconduct, no nothing. It was all just friendly competition, and it was great. The top table saw Chris's team, Blunt Force Trauma, against Dan's team, Big Dice Energy, and who had upset Sam's team, first placeholders, the round before to make it into the final. And they ended up losing, but came in third. So big shout out to all the winners. And thank you everybody for supporting the event. So tonight we're just going to talk a little bit about the new 40K previews that we've had over the last few days. And we're going to have a little bit of a fun session going through top 10 hated rules in Warhammer right now. That is obviously my hated rules, but I've asked people for their hated rules in the Discord and in the Facebook post. And for sure, if you're in the chat tonight and you want to put some of your most hated rules, we'll definitely go over those. So as we are getting into a new edition, it's always fun to look back on the current edition and see in seriousness what you'd like changed, but sometimes jokingly just to have a little bit of fun and to rant about things that kind of get on your nerves. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight and probably for the next 2 months. But yeah, lots of stuff coming out for a new 40K every day seemingly. Tomorrow apparently we're going to get a preview of the Army faction rules for Marines called Oaths of Moment, which of course is secondary for them right now, so I guess that's not existing anymore. And it seems like everything is changing like they said it would, and so it's kind of really exciting to see how things are changing and what things look like, and it's pretty cool. Even if it's not your faction or whatever, I think it's super cool. So we're going to go over some of that tonight. I have already been asked many times, what should I do now with my army, or what should I buy or not buy with the new edition coming up? And my answer to that, I think, with like 2 months until the new edition, is probably don't buy anything. Just wait. You know, you got what you got, so just play with that for now. If you are going to buy something, then now more than ever, at an edition change, especially one where everything is getting wiped clean and everyone starts at an even slate, there's no advantage, then now is the perfect time to start a new army. Get a combat patrol box, which there's like one for every faction now, I think. Get some nice packaged thing to start a new army and grow it from there with the new edition. Now is the time to get a new army. It's the perfect time for it. And you're gonna start even queue with everybody, free index rules for everybody on day 0. It's gonna be fantastic if you wanna start a new army and learn something completely new like everybody else. So it's the best time to start a new army now. If you're gonna buy something, if you're sticking with the same army, probably now is not the best time to spend a ton of money. Just stick and see what happens. Play fun stuff. Now's a great time to just play fun stuff. You know, we were just talking on the weekend, like what should we do with our live stream games leading up to new edition? Until we have enough rules to actually play something resembling new edition, then I think we're just going to do some fun games with some fun lists, models and units that we never get to use, and kind of just have a good time as you prepare for the new edition. Lots of people go and discover Sigmar at this time while they're waiting for the new 40K. So, you know, do what is fun for you. But the new stuff is coming and it's getting previewed. Apparently there's going to be like demo copies at Warhammer Fest, which is coming up very soon. So they're pushing this hard on everybody for the next 2 months, so be ready. We are in attempts to get a preview copy of 40K. We're not one of the big names in the business, but we've been around for a long time and we have a loyal following. And along with Scary and some other guys, you know, there are not many Canadian content producers, so hopefully we can wrangle it into a little bit of a preview copy. But we'll see. We're trying our best. But if we do manage to get a copy, we're gonna cover it for sure. Okay, so that's kind of new 40K. Let's go over some of the stuff that they have shown us recently. Okay, so they previewed this like a couple of days ago, or maybe even last week, I can't remember. This is the new data sheet for the Intercessor. Intercessor being now your barn stock Marine trooper. And so this is the new data sheet that they've already showed us, and now they're showing us the basic Marine, basically. And this, you know, the whole phrase of Marine equivalent or Marine unit equivalent, you know, this is kind of the archetype around which they design a lot of other units in the game. Like it or not, that is just kind of how it is. So it's always interesting to see what the basic Marine looks like in a new edition. And so here's what it looks like. So the movement has not changed, still 6-inch movement. Toughness is still 4. We know that the toughness is, or the range of toughnesses is going up. They already said there's going to be T9s and 10s and 14s and who knows what. So the Marine being toughness 4 is still kind of the level at which things are measured. And power armor is measured, I guess, more specifically. And the 3+ save is still there. And so, again, that stays the same as the previous edition, 3+ armor save. 2 wounds, which we already know that hasn't changed. And now the new kind of morale they described is, and let me just make sure I got this right. I'll pull it up here. Okay, so now the new morale is, it's a battle shock test, which of course is taken from Sigmar, that term. And basically, if you're forced to take a test, then, you know, during the command phase apparently, and definitely if you're below half strength, and you're going to apparently struggle to capture objectives, use stratagems, or fall back. Which is, we already talked about before, is a cool change to make morale a little bit meaningful. And so I wonder whether we're going to find out more, like, does it lower your OC, your objective, whatever it's called, objective control rating, or does it just mean you can't use CP, or like, who knows? But So this new leadership is basically just going to be a roll of 2d6, and you have to roll higher than that number. So I can't remember, off the top of my head what the odds are for that, but apparently it's equivalent to an old leadership of 8. Okay, so it's just a different thing, but this does mean what does that mean for us, custodians players? So that means, like, what are we gonna have? We're gonna have like 2+, great. 3+, I mean, apparently GW doesn't want us to be immune to morale. So, custodians should be like 3+ or something like that, I guess. It would be nice eventually if they did make us immune. But anyway, so it's gonna be lower than 6+. And whatever it is, equivalent to 11. Okay, and then the next thing to talk about is the new OBSEC. So OBSEC is gone. It's now each unit has an OC, objective control rating. And this is basically what they said is you just add up all the OC values of all the models on an objective, and whoever has the more OC holds the objective. So it's no longer just like a unit of guardsmen counteracts 10 custodians bikers to hold an objective, which never made sense, but that's the way it was. And probably there's going to be rules and stratagems that will lower or raise the OC value in the same way that there are things that give people OBSEC and take away OBSEC these days, but maybe we'll see less of that. But definitely the basic intercessor will now count as an OC of 2 towards holding an objective. And so they're going to give people different ratings based on what they feel is their role on the battlefield. So when we talk about Terminators, their OC is only 1, because their role is not really to hold something, it's to go forth and conquer. So if we think that our whole army kind of generally has OBSEC and we're supposed to be custodians, then maybe our OC will be like 3 or 4, or who knows. Right now we have a rule that doubles our numbers, so maybe we'll have an OC of 4. I don't know. It's hard to know, but you can certainly extrapolate from the things that we've been seeing. So that is really interesting as the basic intercessor stat line. So that is cool. So if we now move on to what they preview today, which perhaps is a little bit more interesting. Let me just bring that up. So now we have the Terminator sheet. Yeah, I'll just make this a little bit bigger here. So this is interesting because now we see what some of the abilities are. Now there's a lot of things on this data sheet that we don't have information yet on. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. I'm trying to put myself back on the camera here. So first of all, Terminators only move 5 inches, which is nothing new. Our Terminators were always special for moving 6 inches. So toughness 5. So Terminators have gone up toughness 5, which, to be perfectly honest, makes sense because Terminator armor is supposed to be way stronger than power armor. And so it is an extra toughness. Now, the toughness scale has expanded. So where does that put us? We're an Ormite. We're supposed to be even tougher, so we probably shouldn't be T5 as well. And they also have 2 up save and a 4+ invulnerable save. So they are basically with 3 wounds. So these guys are basically Guardian stat line in terms of durability. So where does that put Guardians? Must be higher. It only makes sense. If GW thinks that we Custodians should be sturdier than Marine Terminators, that is, which is not always been the case, then we should be higher. I don't know, T6, I don't know, who knows? I don't know where the total toughness scale goes, but definitely if Terminators are T5, that's looking like something different for us. 2+ save, of course, if it's on a D6, there's only so much save you can have if 1 is always a fail. So 2 up save, I would expect us to be 2 up save. 4+ invuln, interesting. So 4+ invuln, they haven't really told us much about invuln saves, but if we take it on what we know now, we would probably be also 4 up. I wonder if they would bring back the 3 ups, who knows? Or what Storm Shields are gonna do, I don't know. And wounds 3, so are we going more wounds? Are we getting more elite? It's hard to know, but Terminators have gone to 3 wounds. 6 of leadership we already talked about, and as we already said, they are half the kind of objective control rating as an intercessor, because their role is not to sit there and hold objectives. So that is interesting. Okay, now we look at the weapon profile. So they've already told us that the ballistic skill and weapon skills are going into the weapon profiles, as are the number of shots or attacks, and then strength, AP, and 1. So we have the assault cannon, which says in these kind of new USR writing, devastating wounds. So we don't know what that means. They said they're going to tell us soon. It might be like in the old days. It might be like what before Mortal Wounds came into the game, or maybe this just is Mortal Wounds. I don't know, but we don't know what that is. 24-inch range, 6 shots, hitting on 3s, strength 6, no AP, 1 damage. So we have seen a lot of no AP again. And so maybe this, you know, they said they're trying to tone down the power in the game, and so we're seeing AP 0 popping back up again. Now, we don't know, obviously, if everybody's going to have abilities to raise the AP again, but it does bode well for 2-up save again if there's a lot of AP 0 back in the game. 1 damage. Okay, the Cyclone Missile Launcher, as we can see here, it's kind of the same. We can see Blast is back. We don't know exactly what Blast does, but it is back as a USR, and the Crack Missile has gone up to strength 9. However, so that obviously has influence on toughness, because we know the strength toughness system has remained the same, but we don't know what that means for vehicles. If the vehicles are going up to 10 or 12 or 14, that Crack Missile is not going to be great because it doesn't have anti-vehicle, which we're going to come to in a minute. So who knows? We got the Heavy Flamer, which really interesting, has this torrent rule again, which we don't know how that's defined. It would be hilarious if they bring that little ice cream cone template back. And again, it is now ignores cover again, like in the old days. Of course, we don't know what cover does yet. So that's interesting, and it maintains, so NA ballistic skill. So that must mean that it's going to be auto hit, and maybe that's what the torrent rule covers. And strength 5, and this is still AP 1, which is super interesting. And Make Flamers great again, and then 12-inch range. And then the Storm Bolter Rapid Fire 2 with 2 shots. So they have clarified this now. Rapid Fire 2 doesn't mean 4 shots in general, it just means add 2 shots to the number of shots that you normally have. In this case, it's a double, but it may not necessarily be double for other weapons, which is interesting. So you could have a 3-shot weapon that says Rapid Fire 2, I guess. And then 24-inch range, hitting on 3s, again, no AP. So, which they are now, to be honest, but there's just so many things that increase the AP. Okay, and in melee weapons, so they've pointed out now the difference between a Power Fist and a Chain Fist. So they're both 3 attacks. The Chain Fist hits on 4s, and the Power Fist hits on 3s now. And they're exactly the same otherwise. Strength 8, -2, 2 damage. However, the Chain Fist is a specialist anti-vehicle weapon, because now it has this rule, anti-vehicle 3+, which they've clarified. Anti-X, X being a keyword of a unit type, is going to be their way of making weapons extra good against certain unit types. And so vehicle is 1 unit type, could be monsters, stuff like that. And so against vehicles, if you have vehicle keyword, the 3+ means that when you wound, roll your wound rolls on the 3-up, you're going to wound regardless of strength toughness comparison, which is really interesting because the Power Fist does not do that. And so if you're wounding a T12, I don't know, Power Fist is going to wound on 5s, whereas the Chain Fist is going to wound on 3s, regardless of the fact that they're the same strength. So that's really interesting. They already said they want every unit to have a role, and that for specific purposes, you're going to want specific units. So maybe we're going to see a lot of list variety in terms of bringing units that are anti-vehicle and shooting or melee, and versus guys who are more geared, like a Power Fist would be good to kill Marines, for example, being T4. So that's really interesting, and that's really kind of cool to see. And of course, the potential is there to make anti-anything, you know? Because if you look at the keywords, infantry, Imperium, Terminator, Terminator Squad, like you could be anti-infantry, anti-Imperium, anti-Terminator. Like it could be any of those. Anti-bike, who knows? So there's a lot of space for design there. Okay, so that's kind of some of the weapon things that they let us see today, which is really interesting. So, you know, one of the things that comes through my mind, so what is this? It's really going to be interesting to see what they make with Arachnus, Iliastus, and Adrathic, which are like our kind of weapon types that go across many different models in the army. So it'd be really interesting to see what they do with this. So probably if you go based on now, which is not necessarily a good assumption, Arachnus would be anti-vehicle of some kind. You know, Iliastus might be something else, I don't know. And then, you know, what's Adrathic? It's always been the one in the middle with too few shots. So what does Adrathic become? It's really interesting to see what they will end up doing with that. Bodes well for flamers. If our lady flamers still strength 5 -1 damage, although that's a heavy flamer, so maybe our flamers will probably be the same as they are now. So it's interesting to see. Now the whole spear versus axe thing, like what's going to happen with that? And the difference between the two is not that huge right now. So will axes be vehicle and spears infantry? Like, who knows? Same with bike lances, right? What's going to happen with our weapon profiles? This will be super interesting to know. And yeah, in terms of, you know, as I said before, like, will we get some toughness back? Are we going T6? We're still 2 up, 4 up, I presume. Maybe not, maybe so, I don't know. Our OC is up for grabs. Will we go up in wounds? I don't know. Everything is completely possible. Do they want to make us more elite or the same as now? It's hard to know exactly, but it's super exciting. Okay, abilities, deep strike. So they previewed this stratagem. I forgot to bring it, but this stratagem with the teleport homer, and you place the teleport homer on the field, and then you can use the teleport homer ability at a certain time to come in for 0 CP during your enemy's phase, which is super, super cool. And the really good thing I like about the stratagem that they showed, and I hope that that's the format, is that it's very clear. There's a little bit of prose, but then it's like stratagem, cost, when to use it, now, who to use it on, this person, who can you not, or what can't you do with it, this. I really like how it's just like, boom, set out. You don't have to read a paragraph. I really like that. Just like I like those summary points that they had in the rulebook in 9th. So I really like how the new stratagem, looks. Just to let you know, there is an audio echo. Okay, that's annoying. All right, hope that's better. And the faction ability is called Oath of Moment. Of course, we don't know what that is. We're going to learn tomorrow, apparently. But this Fury of the First basically makes these guys hit and roll way better against the enemy unit that you selected for the Oath of Moment ability. You get +1 to hit. So it looks interesting that Oath of Moment, the faction ability, you're going to have to pick somebody, and these guys are going to hit better against it. So that's interesting. We'll find out about that tomorrow, I guess. It's going to be really interesting what they reveal tomorrow. It might give us a sense of what the abilities, how powerful they're going to be, because Marines generally is pretty good at the start of editions. They give us a sense of how many abilities we might see in an army, maybe. So it'll be really interesting to see what they give us tomorrow. Okay. So that is what we got from the last few days. Tomorrow we're seeing faction abilities. There's going to be so much information flying left and right. If you want to discuss all these things, then do join the Discord channel. The Discord channel is full of people discussing this stuff all day, and you can check it out right here. Or just search for CanHammer Discord. You can find it on our Facebook page. Okay. Now let's do some fun. Now we're going to go through top 10 hated rules in 40K. Okay, so these are a a selection of my most annoying rules in 40K as they stand right now. This is just meant to be a little bit of fun, okay? Some of these things really do annoy me. And then we'll go over what some other people have written. All right, so number 1, mortal wounds. I hate mortal wounds. This thing that just happens and you can't do anything about it, and boom, you just take it. Ugh, and it's especially bad for elite armies. That came from Sigmar. You know, we didn't have mortal wounds until Sigmar had mortal wounds, and then we got mortal wounds. And I just don't like the whole mechanic of mortal wounds. I don't like how some small itty bitty units can do a ton of mortal wounds for no obvious reason than just that they got it. Yeah, I just don't like mortal wounds as a mechanic. I don't like that psychic powers focus on dealing mortal wounds. And mortal wounds just kind of annoy me as a mechanic. Okay, next is trans anything. So it started with transhuman, of course, where you can't wound anything on anything better than a 4-up. And then now you have units with trans hitman, as they call it, where you can't hit anything on better than 4-up. And we are a beneficiary of that with the Blade Champ. I just don't like these rules that no matter what you do, you can't do any better than this. And like just negates all of the stuff that you pay points for, and it just literally turns the game into a dice roll, and the game is a dice game, but it's like 4-up, 50-50 chance I do something. Like it's just spikes everywhere. Don't like the whole trans thing, and I hope we don't see any of that in the new edition. You know, a lot of those things were just designed because the game was getting too lethal, right? So, oh man, everybody's dying. Well, let's make these guys negate everything, and you can only hit on 4s, or you can only wound on 4s. And then that went crazy with the Dark Angels, right? The whole army just can't wound it on anything better than 4-up. It's like, now I think there's guardsmen that you can't wound on a 4-up. Like, who designed that? Just don't like it. In the same vein, to try and decrease the lethality of the game, this came into the game relatively late on, -1 damage. Oh god, I hate -1 damage because it basically negates 2 damage weapons. Like, yeah, and makes 1 damage weapons even maybe slightly better. Like, -1 damage, just a total knee-jerk response to lethality, and don't like it. And then they started putting it onto units that could also transhuman, and it's just too much. -1 damage, don't like that. Double shooting anything. Any ability that let a unit shoot twice just always felt bad. When you're the recipient, felt great when you're doing it, but when you're the recipient of a unit that just either randomly just gets to shoot twice, or there's a stratagem or an ability or something, it's just bad. Inevitably, it was a unit that had a ton of shots and were very damaging, and then you could stack other buffs onto it. It was just not good, and just made the lethality of those units like twice as good. And so yeah, always shooting twice abilities, never like those. Hopefully we don't see those. Deep strike deny. So this whole you can't deep strike within 12 inches thing, it just, like, I don't like that rule. Like, it's 9 inches for everybody. Why did this guy make it 12 inches? It makes charges impossible. It decreases the interactivity of the game. It just like stops a whole bunch of, you know, rules that were there for a reason, and so definitely don't like it. And then you combine that with a smaller table, and just those rules were not good. Do not like those rules. So yeah, I mean, when the table got smaller, they should have made those auras smaller, but nope. Okay, pre-game moves. That's gonna be a controversial one, but I don't like pre-game moves. I think too many things have it these days. Everybody got pre-game move, so just nobody have pre-game move. And then the table is so small, and everybody who gets the pre-game move can move like 12, 14 inches, and then they get move again, and it just too much. And then you got move, and then I got move, and then you got move. You know, this whole pre-game move thing kind of getting out of hand, and yeah, just kind of accelerates the game a little bit too much. OBSEC. I actually hate OBSEC. It's not too bad when, you know, just one unit type in each army had OBSEC, and it wasn't so bad. But then you started to get OBSEC like that would be like on whole armies, and then things would be like double OBSEC to beat those OBSEC, and then now you got things that remove the OBSEC, and then, oh, it's just OPSECing, here's the OPSEC, here's OPSEC, and here's no OPSEC, and there's just too much OPSEC and too much extra OPSEC and too much removal of OPSEC to make OPSEC a good rule anymore. And so I'm glad that that is changing to something more granular, and good riddance to OPSEC. Okay, this is people who know me from the Discord and my videos will know I hate Titanic. I hate Titanic models, not the models themselves, they're amazing, but I hate Titanic in the game of 40K at our points level. Titanic models, I feel like shouldn't be in the game. They have their own game, go play their own game. Titanic models, no thank you. And I'll put a slash there, Primarchs. I love the Primarchs. I'm a huge fan of 30K lore and 40K lore. I love the Primarchs, and the models are amazing, but they just don't go well in the game. They're always either too good or too crappy, and yeah, they're just not good in the game ever since G-Man. Just not good in the game, and I don't like Primarchs, and I hate it even more when you combine multiple Primarchs or Primarchs and other Titanics. Yeah, so definitely don't like Titanic and Primarchs. And you know, I'm a guy who owns my own Titanic models and have played them from time to time, so I don't like those things. And on that frame, people who know me know I hate flyers. This is a two-dimensional game that flyers just break. Flyers have always either been completely useless or completely obnoxious and spammed. They've never been able to make flyers well balanced. So flyers to me should be out of the game. Like, oh, don't even remind me of 7th edition with those stupid flyer formations. That was the stupidest thing ever. Nobody even used those rules because they were so stupid. But flyers to me, so many weird rules interactions about flyers. They're still on the ground even though they're flying. The game just does not accommodate things that's flying around in the air, and flyers should be gotten rid of. I think this last CanHammer team may have been the first tournament that I've run where there were no flyers at all. So yeah, that was really interesting, but you know, that's good. I'd rather see no flyers ever. They can have their own game if they want. Okay, this is a more recent rule, but is now showing up in every single new book that comes out. Ignore invulns. Okay, so now we got a rule that allows something to completely ignore something that most armies pay points for, just for no reason other than to make it even more lethal than it already is. You know, oh, at least I have a 50% chance of maybe surviving this shot. Oh, now you don't. Ugh, I hate that rule. I hate ignoring invulns, not least of which because my whole army that relies on a 4-up invuln. But like, it just is a lazy rule to make something just much more lethal, and I don't like it. Okay, and the final one on my list for now is out of line of sight shooting. I've always been opposed to things that can just randomly shoot, usually the whole table length, for no good reason, hitting just as accurately as anything else, even though it has no idea what or where it's shooting, and is obnoxious. And things that can shoot without seeing is just obnoxious and should never have been in the game. And so at least they toned it down a little bit by making it a minus the hit. To be honest, like, do people remember those stupid Space Marine Thunderfire cannons that was all over the game at one point? That was the stupidest thing, and that was just abusing out of line of sight. Everybody remembers like double shooting stupid Tau Smart missiles, and so out of line of sight, don't like it as a mechanic, should be gone. Okay, bonus hate, Tau. That's it, just Tau. And stupid, ridiculous Eldar shenanigans, breaking every rule just because Eldar. That's bonus for you guys. All right, Davis, you disagree with me on Primarchs. Well, I would expect people to disagree with me on the Primarchs just because they guttural, in their gut, they feel like they need to like Primarchs. But for the game, it's not good. That's my argument. Okay, let's see what other people hate. All right, we're gonna go back up here. Okay. So from the Discord chat, people hate move, shoot, move abilities. I agree, that falls into my bonus of Eldar shenanigans, who were the first to fire and fade. Yeah, like, oh, let's just come out let's kick your butt and then let's just go back into this building so you can't do anything about it. Oh, most annoying thing about it, they might as well just shoot out of line of sight. And in fact, I believe Dark Reapers used to do that too. So Dark Reapers being the ultimate annoying move unit that I've ever experienced. Yeah. Transhuman we already talked about, and giving something permanent transhuman, of course, you know, with Dark Angels recently. Definitely that just makes it worse, but we already talked about transhuman. Ignore invulns, we talked about. No rerolls. Okay, well, no rerolls is just a gut response to too many rerolls. So once everything having rerolls, chapter master rerolls, everything having rerolls, and then it used to be just failed rolls, now it's all rolls, and there was a point when Call was the only person to give people all rolls instead of just failed rolls, but now everybody's just all rolls. It's just too many rolls everywhere, makes the game longer, makes the dicing more complicated, and then so the gut response to that was like, well, no rerolls. And he's like, well, I paid a ton of points for my rerolls, so I was like, yeah, agreed. Let's see. Kazurkin mortals being 6 per unit instead of total. Sure, yeah. I think I saw some Kazurkins in action this weekend. There was every guard army obviously had a bunch of these guys, and for a bunch of guardsmen to put out that many more, like it's stupid. Refer to my mortal wound rant. Auto wounding. Yeah, so I think auto anything is annoying, but yeah, for sure. Permanent transhuman on Dark Angels, yeah. Okay. Out of line of sight jank, yep. Not having simultaneous close combat. Well, there we go. That's not really a rule per se, but yeah, it is a structural thing. Okay, wound caps on characters. Yeah, again, that was just a knee-jerk way of protecting supposedly valuable, strong characters from just getting ganked in turn 1 by limiting the number of wounds they could take. And that was just a response to lethality, again. Okay, resurrection rules. Okay, that's an interesting one. So I guess Angron comes back now, and people who can get up on a 4-up, Necrons. If you've ever played against like 100 Necron warriors, you know the pain of resurrection rules. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Feel no pain. So yeah, feel no pain is interesting. My biggest gripe about feel no pain, it's almost like a response to mortal wounds, but my biggest gripe about feel no pain is it just slows the game down, especially when you're dealing with multi-damage. It really just, and it gets confusing, and yeah. Okay, permanent transhuman, another vote. D weapons, invisibility, obviously those don't exist anymore, thank God. Baked in, ignore rerolls, ignore invulns, blanket transhuman, no interaction sources, so out of line of sight shooting, mortals, auto wounding, flyers. Hey, some guys got the same kind of hates as me. No rules with help models. Mortal spam, demon saves, and AP escalation. Okay. Okay, let's see. No deep strike within 12 inches is another vote for that one. Transhuman, okay. Entity of Satan Shard. Can't remember what that is. If somebody can tell me. Okay. Most hated 40k rules from Tom Sawyer. Piling in. Yeah. I gotta say, so piling in and consolidating is so full of shenanigans, it could definitely be cleaned up. Or is it even necessary? If you just made it so that you can go as far as your charge and that's it, whoever's in range can attack and whoever's not cannot, or even just pile in and consolidate just one move, I agree, that would definitely clean up the fight phase. Now we'll see. We have no idea what the fight phase is in 10th. And so maybe those are gone completely. Who knows? Auto wounds again. Auspex scanning. Yeah, Eldar were used to be the only people who could Auspex, and then Marines got it. And it just, you would usually forget about it and you'd come in and get blown away. Yeah. Auto Hitman, yep. Phase cap units, yep. Okay. Okay, let's just go to the Facebook post here, where there have been a bunch of posts as well. Okay, we have here painted models being part of the battle score. Well, yeah. Okay. Overwatch, yeah, I mean, Overwatch basically disappeared with the change to being a stratagem. Very rarely used. Okay, this is not really answering the question. General complaint about how terrain works. Sure, I can see terrain rules have never been perfect, and so we'll see what 10th does. No penalties for falling back most of the time. Monster rules blocked through ruins. Yeah, so you know, jankiness and restrictions through ruins and terrain. Okay. Okay. So that's it, guys. That was just a quick impromptu show tonight, and I might do a show later this week on some board games. We are already working on Capital City Bloodbath, which will be in August this year. Tentative date August 19th, but definitely not confirmed. So if you have to take a whole bunch of time off for that, I wouldn't do that right now. But follow the Facebook page for CanHammer, and you will get all the updates as soon as we have them. But we are working on CCBB already, just fresh off CanHammer Team Tournament. Thanks very much for watching, subscribing, and following. Consider joining the channel, join the Discord, and we'll see everybody next time.